this is Amber Kivett. I am the leader and the head of our health and wellness department with LifePro, and I'm presenting to you direct from my facility located on the west side of Indianapolis, Kivett Kinetic Solutions. And I just want to say thank you for all of those of you who are giving us the opportunity to share with you today. Today is all about talking about inflammation, why it matters to you, why you might be not feeling so great, and what LifePro can do to help you be the best version of yourself possible. Because we are streaming live from our Facebook channel as well as our YouTube channel, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know exactly where you're tuning in live from. We are super excited to be able to enrich you with information as to how you can be the best person that you can be with what you got to work with, no matter how young, no matter how old. Maybe you're suffering from chronic pain, inflammation, fibromyalgia, you're coming out of cancer treatment, maybe you're still battling that C word that we just are coming out of from the pandemic. There's all different kinds of things that can lead to our body slowly breaking down and becoming debilitating in how we are trying to move. And so today it is all about reducing inflammation with our different LifePro technologies and making sure that you understand what the difference of the different technologies are that are available to you. And whether you use LifePro products or not, it's a matter of understanding what oxidative stress is, all these different words that you're hearing, mitochondria, what is stress hormones, what is the happy hormones, how do you get the dose, what are these different things that are being mentioned. And if you are clueless in what some of these terms might mean, I'm here to clarify a lot of that for you, because I have been suffering from inflammation over the last couple of months, and I haven't dealt with this kind of inflammation in several years. But what caused mine over the period of just a few months was flying on spring break to St. Thomas for the lifetime vacation of my year, of my life, if you will. We took my family there for spring break, and I went from being at sea level at a nice warm environment in which my body really thrives, in which I feel very calm and fluid in water, the sand between my toes, feeling the warmth of that calming, warm, sunny environment, to coming home for 5 days and then flew right out west to Montana to Glacier National Park to hike a big mountain covered in snowdrifts at 8,000 feet elevation, which I've never seen before in my life. I had never been to the mountains, and I decided to hike 5.5 miles. I know, it's crazy, right? In 3-foot snowdrifts using snowshoes, like nuts. But it was, I was all about adventure. I needed some kind of fun in my life that week, and it was an opportunity of a lifetime to being able to do that. And so I did it, and my body said, nope, not gonna like this anymore, so we're gonna shut you down. And so I came home weighing an extra 10 pounds, went up in size. Now, mind you, I might have consumed some adult beverages that week, but nothing beyond intoxication. In fact, I don't do that kind of stuff very often. But because I have fibromyalgia, and because I went from being at sea level to extreme elevation, being in an airplane, only giving myself 5 days recovery from one extreme to the other, it's taken me 2 months to get myself back to right using our different products while continuing to live the life that I want to lead, which is using my work and working with my family and just going on with the natural stress that comes along in our life. And so with fibromyalgia, or any form of autoimmune disease for that matter, my body rebounded and said, nope, we are not going to let you feel good. And so now I'm back to where I was a couple of months ago, much less inflammation, not nearly as exhausted, not nearly as puffy and swollen. But I want to be able to share with you, sometimes inflammation is not within our control, and sometimes it is within our control. But when it is not within our control, and when we're looking for different remedies or different modalities or different types of technologies or supplements that can help us in reversing that process so that we can truly thrive at the best ability possible with what we got to work with, what LifePro products can offer you from the convenience of home without having to going and seeing a specialist is game changer for the first time in human life, in that we can offer products at a very low level cost, less than $100, or as much as the sauna behind me over there in the corner for like $1,500. So you can go from one spectrum to the other, but I want to show you kind of my batteries when I when I first came into the spring break weather, I was green light battery. I was super excited and ready to go. Energy is on, full of life, ready to go out and just truly be excited with the opportunities that presented, just soaking my feet in the sand and just loving life. I went from that to about here mid-range, because when you're on vacation, when you're with family, it doesn't always mean calming. Sometimes you go along life and you're more stressed and you're eating like crap and you might be consuming a few adult beverages because you're on vacation. And what do we do when we're on vacation? When we don't have to go anywhere, is we actually want to enjoy some of the finer things in life. Or maybe you didn't get enough nap time, but you get a lot of the sun. And being in the sun all day is very taxing on our system. So when we go from here to here, and then I came home for a week, right back into the chaos of working. Then I got to here. And then when my body went out to Montana for a week and didn't do much to help myself by going up to elevation and extreme cold, which my body does not thrive in, then I ended up in hitting this dead battery level. So it caught up with me. It happens. It's life. It's okay. That's how it happens sometimes. So main thing that I want you to know is, how can we go from dead battery to full battery? Okay. We, much like Tesla batteries, have to be able to plug in and recharge and get our body and our batteries back to full. And sometimes we wait until we're down here at this spectrum in order to be able to recharge, instead of staying here to half full before we decide it's time to go back up. So my suggestion to all of you is, don't wait until you're beyond half empty to be able to go back to full. Make sure that you're staying in this green zone with the yellow, because once you get to the orange, it is really hard for your body to be able to bounce back. So going from there, what I want to give you an idea of are stress response symptoms that lead to inflammation. Stress response symptoms that lead to inflammation. When we have physical stress, one of the greatest predictors of chronic inflammation and stress is heart rate variability. You can wear a ring to bed. Or a lot of the Apple apps on our watches, if you wear an Apple Watch, some of the wearable trackers, just taking your resting heart rate before you sit up in a state of gravitational energy. If you can check your resting heart rate in the morning, and if you know that resting heart rate is pretty consistent on average over the period of a week, and out of nowhere it happens to go way up or it happens to drop. If it drops, your body is going through its recovery phase, in which you can elevate back into that adrenaline state where you're go, 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 go. Your body can handle a lot more. But if your heart rate goes up at resting heart rate before you've stood up on your feet for the day, and your heart rate continues to elevate a little bit more each morning, that means that your body is having a very hard time getting caught up with repairing itself. And so your resting heart rate naturally increases, which means that there's less range for you to be able to accelerate that heart rate when it comes to doing the things that we do. So physical symptoms of stress include an elevated heart rate, not during exercise, but when you're not exercising, okay? Increase in blood pressure. And if you have physical pain, this is so important to understand. If you have physical pain and you can feel the physical pain and you recognize it, or even emotional pain, because pain comes in the form of 4 different types. We've got physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, and mental pain, okay? Those 4 things come together in creating what we refer to as a pain signal, okay? When you feel pain, blood pressure goes up because we're in a state of protection. So if your blood pressure naturally goes up, you've been to the doctor and you notice that your blood pressure has gone up unexpectedly and you feel fine, that means that your body is going through a state of physical stress. It's not able to catch up with how it's fixing itself. And so it's a chronic process that comes on over time. So if you randomly have high blood pressure at the doctor and you don't feel exhausted or stressed, but your blood pressure is elevated, that is a good sign that your body is going through some kind of a chronic inflammation phase or systemic inflammation. So make sure that you're aware of that, because it's you need to make sure that you're finding a way in order to reduce that inflammation before it becomes a chronic physical problem leading to chronic disease. Now, if you naturally are feeling dizzy or exhausted, I can hear my speaker going on and off because I think my AirPods are almost dead. Another stress moment, right? When you start to notice that you just are not as coherent as you usually are, you're not as alert, you're feeling a little more lightheaded and dizzy, feeling a little more off balance, or more stressed, you're more irritable, okay? Having fatigue and exhaustion. You go to bed on time, you sleep all night, you get up the next morning, and you are still exhausted. That means you're experiencing chronic inflammation. I've gone through this so many times in my life. Even in addition to fibromyalgia, I had what was called or is called adrenal gland fatigue, in which my adrenal glands are releasing that hormone in which it cannot detox my body fast enough, that the inflammatory hormones going off are creating so much toxicity that my body cannot fix itself, okay? And so what was happening for me, number one, I started to actually lose hair, okay? I started losing my hair. I started becoming more itchy, scratchy. I started to end up in getting a rash, like little bits of acne, okay, because hormones are way off. But not only that, I would go to bed at like 9 o'clock at night, and I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and be so tired and have to really force myself to get up and get going with my toddler at that point in my life. And I would take her to her daycare, or not to her daycare, but her preschool session, which would then get out at noon. I drop her off at 10 and have to go home and take another nap. And I'd just gotten up. It was so frustrating. So long story short, realized that number one, I had adrenal gland fatigue and my hormones were off and I had fibromyalgia. So all that combined created this downward spiral of events in which I just felt terrible. But I also gained about 15 pounds in about a month's time, just around my midsection, from all of the excess hormones trying to battle. My body was holding on to extra water. So down here in my lower leg, I started to experience peripheral edema, which means if you pull your pant leg back or you put your sock down and you see a really thick line from where your clothes have been there, I would have that even if I wasn't overweight, because your body continues to release water and fluid as a form of dealing with chronic inflammation. And you could actually see it in my skin, or if I would pull my pants to switch into some shorts, I would actually have the lines in my pants, in my skin, because of how swollen I was. So having body aches and pains, or having digestion problems. So this is especially if you are a female and you've not had a total hysterectomy and you are having trouble with chronic constipation or irritable bowel syndrome, and it goes back and forth, but you don't have to be a female in order for that to happen. A lot of men can develop that problem with stress over time as well. After you have a hysterectomy, it is very common to develop digestion problems in which you go back and forth between chronic constipation and irritable bowel syndrome and leaking bladder. It all comes full circle because the body is missing something really important. Or even before that, as we are going through different hormonal changes, our body can go through this stress fluctuation process in which our body has trouble with digestion. So it can also happen, though, if you are not properly digesting the right foods. So if you are not putting the right chemicals or food in your body, because everything that we put in our mouth, whether it is grown organically, whether it is grown in mass production, whether it is a supplement, whether it is a protein shake, whether it is soda, whether it is bottled water, it all has a chemical of some sort in it in order to be able to get it from point A to point B. It's really hard to find stuff, even organic farming, because I'm a farmer's wife. Even organic farming, it is really hard to find something that does not have some sort of a chemical in it that you're putting into your system. So when we start putting the wrong things in our system, we get the wrong things out of our system. Gluten is a huge inflammatory food. Dairy products are super inflammatory, different types of nuts, nightshades, there's soy, there's a lot of different inflammatory foods, but it is different for everybody. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to eat those foods, because some of you can eat gluten just fine or eat corn just fine, and you don't have any response whatsoever. Your body doesn't change in a negative way and you feel no difference. So I'm not going to tell you in this session what to eat or what not to eat to reduce inflammation, because that is very dependent on each person. And we have the ability to be our own pharmacist based off of what we put in our system, which then changes the biochemical process of the hormones. And the hormones are the chemical messengers of your body that tell your body what it should be doing in order for the electrical signals to actually take action. So it's a very complex process as to how it all comes around, but it's very simple when it comes to helping with the inflammation in the body. There are a lot of different ways in which we can do that, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. When it comes to emotional symptoms that are associated with stress, you're anxious, you're restless, you're nervous, you're more irritable, you're up and down. You do not have to be diagnosed with some kind of a psychological disorder in order for you to be riding the roller coaster of highs and lows. Our thoughts and our emotions ebb and flow, and that is normal for most every human being on this planet. Loneliness, having a lack of purpose, crying more often than normal. Those are all signs and symptoms of chronic inflammation or response to stress that we don't really have control over until we try and figure out how to reverse that process. When it comes to behavioral symptoms to stress, and I'm not here to tell you what you should or should not do because that's all up to you guys. But when we do become more stressed, we are naturally attracted to drinking more alcohol, drinking more caffeine, aspartame, consuming different substance, if you will, avoiding family and friends, which is referred to as social anxiety disorder. I do know quite a few people in my surrounding community, in my inner circle, who have had and suffered social anxiety disorder. And those individuals do not want to be around other people. They want to be alone. And it's really hard to pull them out of that because whatever is causing their levels of inflammation and stress, it is continuing to create this downward spiral of hormonal dysfunction to the point that they're not releasing those happy hormones, and they just don't want to be around other people because they don't want to inconvenience other people. They're humiliated. They don't feel like themselves. They don't feel confident, when really what they actually need is human connection and love. So changes in how people want to spend time with you. If you are eating too much, when I'm overstressed, I can get into a binge eating cycle very easily. So I might want more chocolate. Chocolate is my big thing, right? Some of you might be suffering of like lots of sugar. You want sugar, go, 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 go. And then the sugar feels great, right? Sleeping too much or not sleeping enough. Like you're so exhausted that you actually cannot fall asleep. Criticizing others. You don't want to take responsibility for your own challenges, but you want to blame everybody else as to why your life sucks, right? Or just difficulty in concentrating. These are all emotional and behavioral symptoms as to chronic stress. So as you are all listening in from different outlets, if you want to post, if you are dealing with chronic inflammation or you have signs and symptoms of some of these things, you want to share those. A lot of times when we give and share is when we get the relief of how you can eliminate this frustration. It takes human interaction and it takes some of this emotional exchange and knowing that you are not alone. There are so many other people that are going through the same crap in their life, the highs and the lows. And so I'm hearing you. I'm seeing you on there. I'm seeing the comments flooding in. So yes, when we're going through these different things in life, but we haven't experienced it before, we're like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. I don't want to be on medication, so I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to make it through. But that actually creates this trigger of a downward spiral in our thinking process. Do you know that we actually think 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day? That's what we process in this mind of ours, right? And over 40,000 of those, this is a proven fact. Over 40,000 of those thoughts are typically negative, right? What happens when we have negative thoughts? We jack up the stress hormones because we attract the energy we give out, and we are electro-related creatures as human individuals, okay? So our body is very electrical. That's why it takes an automatic external defibrillator to jumpstart our heart if it quits working out of nowhere. Sometimes it can be an arrhythmia. Sometimes it is a clog in the tunnels. Sometimes it is just you get hit the right time, right speed, right place at the right beat. And then we have to jumpstart that again. It's because we have a battery. It's called our heart, and it is pumping. It is a mechanical pump that oxygenates our life. And so if that heart stops beating, it takes an electrical surge to jumpstart it again, okay? We have electrical meridian pathways. Our brain is producing ionic things, okay? I'm just gonna say ionic cells, okay? Plus and minus. And when we have a tremendous amount of inflammation in our body, we are carrying a very dominant charge in which we need to neutralize somehow. And that's where these devices come into play. So what I want to teach you is oxidative stress. Oxidative stress comes in the form of many types of things, whether it is using your phone. There's so much electromagnetic radiation in these phones. There's a lot of electrical current wavelengths going on with these phones that are trying to connect with these 5G towers, right? So our smartphones, our AirPods, okay, our AirPods or our earphones actually have a certain electrical polarity that communicates with this to get it to this. We also have hearing aids. Those two have an electrical charge that are trying to communicate with the bones in the inner ear and are using sound waves to bounce the energy so we actually can hear it louder, okay? There are a lot of different things that create increase in oxidative stress, which ultimately destroys our power plants within our cells called our mitochondria. And so what I want to talk to you about are different things that can cause free radical oxidative stress. And where this comes into play is right here. So I'm going to show you this. The mitochondria, if you go back to biology, if you didn't understand biology or didn't like biology, it's okay. I'm going to keep this very simple. But on this sheet, okay, we have a very healthy cell. Every single one of our cells are trillions of cells in our body. It's a ridiculous number of cells that are in the human body. Of all the cells that are in our body, each one of those cells has a little guy in there called a mitochondria, or however you want to refer to it, but it's mitochondria. The mitochondria is the power plant to every cell in our body, whether they are thriving or whether they are dying, okay? When the mitochondria cannot provide the information to the nucleus and to the cell as to how our body should be responding, this chemical reaction doesn't take place the way that it's supposed to. And so when we start to see that mitochondria goes from being very healthy and orange, and that's not what color it really is, but we're just kind of using this as a diagram. But when we go from having this really healthy mitochondria to very, very strained to diseased, and then before we know it, we're back around to here where it doesn't even function, okay? When we have a mitochondria that's damaged and it starts to mutate and it starts to transform in ways that our body cannot use it, that's when we get into trouble, okay? And so when we are looking at cardiovascular disease, this is in relationship to cardiovascular disease. So we're hearing about a lot of heart attacks right now. We're hearing a lot of myocarditis, where the heart is inflamed. Is that from COVID and vaccines? Who is to say? If you are already inflamed and you got that injection, it's hard to say whether it is causing it or whether it is helping it. But either way, when we become more inflamed because of a lot of different things that lead to this, then our mitochondria, which is responsible for ATP production, that is like the energy that happens inside the cell. When the mitochondria and the ATP are not generating energy, that's what gives us the ability to actually work, then our heart and our muscles don't contract and relax like they should. And our heart is an actual electrical rich mechanical pump that gives us blood flow, okay? But that's just one mitochondria in the whole human body. So we go from very healthy mitochondria to very sick, dysfunctional, can't function. Why is this important? Because when we're looking at what causes oxidative stress, it comes in the form of many symptoms, okay? And so I'm gonna go through these here real quick. I'm gonna take this really up close in person so you can take a photo of that if you want to and blow it up. I can include a picture of this and the other pictures on here on the post after we're done going through some of this. But when we're looking at multiple organs going through oxidative stress, inflammation, some of the disease that results from this, because tissue is not at ease, it's very stressed, very tense. Therefore, those cells go from being very happy, bouncing with lots of energy to like can't move at all, can't transfer energy or information. Diabetes, chronic fatigue, arteriosclerosis, which is the disease of our blood vessels, hypertension. When we're looking at our immune system, chronic inflammation, autoimmune disorders, which we all can go through in ebb and flow. Lupus is another big one. MS, irritable bowel syndrome. Cancer is another form of chronic inflammation that affects our immune system. When it comes to our brain, we're hearing more and more cases of Alzheimer, the early onset of dementia, Parkinson's. These are all things that result from chronic oxidative stress, and we actually have the power to reverse that and to try and replicate healthy mitochondria and regenerate natural stem cells and 28 different types of collagen in our body to be able to fix itself. Our body has the miraculous ability to repair itself if we would just get out of the way and let it do it. Okay? When it comes to chronic inflammation in the brain, we're talking about repetitive concussions, but you don't have to have repetitive concussions. We can be talking about drug use, prescriptions, side effects, chronic stress, just not even oxidative stress, but chronic stress that is in combination with oxidative stress, leads to migraines, leads to stroke, leads to trauma, autism, ADHD, which, by the way, I have ADHD, just got diagnosed with it because I was exhausted. I became narcoleptic, which I've known for most of my adult life. But this year, for whatever reason, my body is just saying enough is enough, and started becoming more symptomatic, and things I've already bounced back from. And so I've been going through this recovery phase where I have to take a big step back, take more time to recover, and use a lot of these amazing products in order to be able to help myself, because I don't want that to be my reality, and I actually can control that. When it comes to your lungs, oxidative stress in the lungs is in the form of asthma, COPD. We've got allergies. So if you're now dealing with allergies that you've never dealt with, that is an oxidative stress reaction to what you are breathing in through your nose because of what's in your air or in your environment. When it comes to joints, rheumatism or rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, psoriasis, gout, those are all things that come about in our joints because of chronic inflammation. From our kidneys, we're talking about kidney disease, renal disease, nephritis, and then in our skin starts to sag and starts to wrinkle. We start to get lines, okay? Why do my forehead have lines? Because the Botox ran out. The Botox ran out, and my forehead muscle carries so much tension that over time, it just creates that line because of where it's tight. We can get tension in our neck, in our jaw, in all these different areas, and it creates a crease where those muscles are really stretched beyond capacity because they're so tight. Yes, they're actually stretching and creating that line that we call a wrinkle. But is it really a wrinkle? It's tension. And so how can we reduce tension? By learning how to relax and recover a little bit more, right? And so more back into stress with skin is also melanoma, psoriasis, and dermatitis. So that is our oxidative stress. So where does all LifePro come in? Well, let me just show you this. We have all these different products up here. Red light, infrared light therapy, pulsed electromagnetic radiation fields. We've got whole body vibration. We've got the sauna behind us. There are so many great products that LifePro has come out with over the last several years. And so what I want to talk to you about when it comes to the big sauna behind me, we also have the sauna blankets. So if you don't have space, 36 by 36, it's just a little, I'm going to say it's close to 6 foot tall, not even 6 foot tall. But if you just have a 36 by 36 space in your garage, or if you don't have space and you want to use a blanket, you can use a sauna blanket to get the same infrared experience. And infrared saunas, I'm going to give you the top 10 benefits. Top 10 benefits of an infrared sauna, which is behind me, or the sauna blankets. And the infrared pulsed electromagnetic fields just came out last week. But when it comes to the top 10 benefits, number 1 is detoxification. And it does that through the intense heat, which feels different than the heat outside, but the sauna can go over 150 degrees, in which you can actually detox by sweating through the pores in your system, which helps eliminate toxins from your body if you don't exercise regularly, which I honestly don't. I'm not going to hold myself hostage of that fact. I actually don't exercise as often as I probably should, and I'm okay with that because I'm doing a lot of other things that can replicate what exercise might do with me. But if I'm already inflamed, if I already have inflammation, especially systemic chronic inflammation, one of the worst things that I can do is do steady state cardio for more than 30 minutes, because naturally what happens from a biochemical standpoint, when you exercise with cardio with an elevated heart rate for more than 30 minutes, you actually release more stress hormone. Hello, we don't want to do that because we want to make sure that we're able to heal. But what exercise does do, so 15 to 20 minutes using that vibration platform in order to get the resistance training in, or to get that heart rate up just enough that it beats a little faster, is it does release the happy hormones. So I like to use the whole body vibration platform. Doesn't matter which one, but behind me, we're representing the Rumble X Plus, okay? But the biggest organ in the body is our skin. Yes, it actually is an organ, okay? Number 2 for the sauna is increased exercise recovery. So like I said, when we exercise too much, and I learned that's what led on my adrenal gland fatigue, was exercising cardio more than 10 hours a week, because I was training for a mud obstacle course race series. So Tough Mudder, Spartan, that was me. Yep, crazy awesome time, but I don't know that it was worth what my body actually went to in order to recover and how much time I lost. So saunas take, if you do exercise after you get in the sauna, it actually increases performance through exercise because the body's already generating the blood flow. And over time, it quickens recovery. But the secret is you have to stay hydrated, because our body has to have H2O in order to repair the connective tissue, which really kind of resembles a dirty sponge. We have to be able to wring that sponge out and rehydrate it with really good water. And if you're not drinking the water because you're drinking other substances full of junk and chemicals, then the sponge just fills back up dirty with dirty water instead of clean water, which is what we would drink with pure water. When it comes to number 3, it is our heart and blood pressure health. So number 3 benefit of getting in that sauna behind me or in a sauna blanket is it can actually lower both systolic and diastolic blood pressure over time. Consistency is key here. When it comes to number 4, it's boosting the immune system. When we have chronic inflammation or natural levels of oxidative stress, our immune system becomes very, very compromised. So if you're wanting to get a jump on cold and flu symptoms, dealing with the allergies, if you get into the sauna or hibernate inside of one of those warm sauna blankets, you're looking at increasing you're increasing white blood cells and lymphocytes and neutrophils by getting into, no, I'm taking that back. That is so not true. Actually, I'm reading this and I know for a fact that's not right. So let me go back and reverse. Let's rewind. Getting into the sauna actually enhances our regeneration of stem cells. It regenerates red blood cells and it knocks out those white blood cells. I didn't read this word for word, but it actually says getting a jump on cold and flu season. And when you have a cold or you get the flu or we're dealing with COVID stuff, it actually increases white blood cells. So when you go to the doctor and they ask you for a blood panel, a complete blood panel, they're looking for the white blood cells, the inflammatory markers, the lymphocytes, and the neutrophils. Getting in the sauna does not increase those. It actually drops those down by increasing the cells that actually help you get better. But being in the sauna also helps to replicate and multiply mitochondria, which is the power plant of our cells. Now, getting into the sauna, especially that one behind me is a LifePro sauna, it actually has chromotherapy. So those are the lights that make us feel, right? And so it actually changes your mood. Being exposed to lights, whether it's red light or blue light, or purple. Those different colors change how we feel, which actually lowers depression and lowers our moments of anger, okay? When it comes to younger skin, we have increasing levels of collagen, so it fills in these fine lines and wrinkles so that we don't feel like we're getting older and our skin's starting to sag, because as we get older, our collagen runs out and we start to lose collagen tone. And so we can actually regenerate. Again, there's 28 different types of collagen that formulate in our body, and we actually have the ability to regenerate that and restructure that through fibroblasts and mechanoblasts. If you do happen to have wounds or scars, it actually helps to regenerate and heal those. It improves the overall elasticity of our skin, which is what keeps our skin looking younger. When it comes to our circulatory system, it improves oxygenation in our circulatory system. So it increases how our blood vessels dilate and constrict, which allows oxygen to enter our cells naturally, easier without having to strain. So it changes vasodilation constriction, hence more red blood cells are able to enter. From pain relief, heat actually calms pain down initially, okay? It does help with joint pain and providing relief and providing more mobility in the muscles, but it can also, having too much chronic heat can actually inflame some things. So it can work either way. Red light is more superficial. Infrared light, whether near or far, is much deeper. And everybody's a little different. When it comes to relaxation, being in the sauna or in the sauna blankets or being on the vibration platform allows our body more relaxation, more calming of those cortisol stress hormones, and allows us to release the serotonin happy hormones. Did you know that serotonin is primarily a gut regulated hormone, meaning the gut produces it? We have a very small percentage, about 20-25% of our serotonin produced actually in the brain, but the one that's actually produced in the gut triggers how the brain actually works. We are our own pharmacy, and most of you don't realize that. And then, of course, just lowering our levels of inflammation. Now, why does all this matter and how does it work? When we look at the electromagnetic radiation spectrum, this is natural energy, by the way. This is not created energy. This is how energy is created out in front of us all the time. NASA has confirmed this. This is confirmed in science. I remember taking this in science class as a grade school kiddo. When we look at the top, it's giving us our spectrum. So yes, we have our TV and our radio. We have our remote control. We have light bulbs. We have nuclear energy. And then we have the spectrums in between. Okay. We also have how it influences on which frequency down here in the middle. And with our eyes, we actually perceive different colors, which actually change how our body works on an electrical level. So when we are looking at infrared light, that is what you're going to find in the sauna. That's what you're going to find in the BioHeal, what you're going to find in the PMF mat or the infrared mat. And then we've got all these other gadgets and gizmos and devices that allow us to improve how our body feels simply by using infrared light. Now, what's really important to remember is infrared light is naked to the human eye. So we do not have the ability to see infrared light with our eyes as it is because it's on a visible spectrum that we do not register. So when it comes to the LED light therapy color chart and the benefits for all of us, down here with our near infrared is going to be at the far end of the spectrum beyond 700 nanometers, okay? And so when we're looking near infrared, we're talking 700 to 2500, which provides pain relief and it provides cell regeneration. That's why the sauna is so good. But if you don't want to use that really big sauna behind me, then you can get the pulsed electromagnetic field mat that includes infrared, and you can use both at the same time. Now, when it comes to red light therapy, you've heard me talking about red light therapy. We have red light therapy device over there in the corner. So when we're talking about red light therapy, don't worry, you're not going to go blind by looking at this up close because there's a screen that filters this from all of you seeing it. But when we actually use the BioHeal, you're going to be able to see what looks like only half of it is working. Okay, it's only going to look like half of it is working, but it's all on. Okay, you're going to see some of those lights. Okay, these lights right here at top are going to be more red. Okay, and then you're going to see a whole row of lights down through here that are infrared, and those don't look like they're on. They look like they're broken or malfunctioning. When they're actually on, we just don't see them with our eyes because they don't fall in the right spectrum. Okay, and you have the ability to use just red, or you have the ability to go with just the infrared. So there you go. So it doesn't look like they're on, but they're on. So this is just infrared. And then when we go back to combine, there's both red and infrared. Okay, so that is your BioHeal. And the BioHeal is on a much stronger spectrum. There we go. Make sure you wear your safety gear. It is on a much different spectrum than some of our other devices here. So the Aleva Sole, which is made for the foot, ankle, elbow. You'll have to go back and watch that launch. It is a neat product. But I'm wearing my safety gear, so I'm in the presence of the red light. When we go to turn this one on, you're just going to see a lot of chips, okay? These bulbs, as compared to these bulbs, these are superpower, okay? These are super hero power red light bulbs and infrared light bulbs. These are baby dose, okay? So when we go to put this on our body, whether it's our foot, whether it is our elbow, you can even wrap it around your knee if you want to. You can use this on your back. You can just lay flat and put it on your back. If you want to make sure that you're getting it direct to the skin though, because the more light that makes contact and transferring those light wavelengths through your body, the better, okay? So it is okay to have these little chips in contact with your skin. This, we do not want to sit with our skin exposed to this in contact with. You want it to be about 6 inches away, okay? So about 6 inches away if you're wanting to go with combined heat, okay? Now, we do have the ability on this one. You can see that it has a pulsed light, okay? Now, why would we use pulsed? There's a tremendous amount of clinical evidence in the medical world that states that if you use pulsed red light and infrared light therapy, what does it do? It's like having a party, right? Can you imagine your cells going to a light party and getting all happy because the lights are flashing and it's a happy time, right? But if they go to this room where the lights are just on, a different color in the room, it's like, I'm getting used to the party. It is hard to get used to a party when the lights are flashing and having a great time. So all the cells in your body become like bouncing around like, oh my gosh, there's a party, I want to go to the party. And so the lights become much more attracted to those cells because they're more receptive because we've captured their attention. However, if you are somebody or you're spending around time with somebody who has epilepsy or is very photosensitive or has any kind of seizure response or has had a recent brain injury, do not use the flashing light feature because it can actually trigger a seizure. So we do not want to use flashing lights around somebody who is light sensitive or has a history of seizure activity because we don't want to make somebody feel worse by having a little party with ourselves. Okay, so there is your Aleva Sole. And then we also have, for those of you out there who have knee or elbow pain, I saw this posted in our Facebook group not too long ago, and somebody had this on, and it is the BioRecovery knee sleeve. Really, really cool. And because I'm not using the high potent BioHeal light, I can take my safety glasses off. If you have some of these products, I'm curious of all the products that you might have, those of you listening in, what is your favorite product so far that you've tried? And what is one that you can't wait to try? Like one that you've been wanting to try for a while, you haven't gotten it yet, but you can't wait to give it a try. I'm curious to hear what that might be. So this knee sleeve if I remember right, it actually has to be connected. It does not work on its own free will without the plug-in. Okay, so we have our plug-in here, and it actually plugs into another wall, or it has an auxiliary input. So you can plug it into another external outlet, if you will. There we go. And when we go to turn it on with the remote, there it's on. And so this is made to go around the elbow. You can put it on around the knee, but remember, you're better off in putting it directly on to your body as opposed to putting it on over clothes. It's not gonna give you the same kind of result if you go through the clothes and if you go straight onto the skin. So that is the knee sleeve, and it can be used in the elbow. So if you've got chronic elbow pain, I'm starting to hear more and more of a lot of men who are struggling of elbow pain in their middle-aged years. And so those who are struggling with middle-age aches and pains, the BioRecovery sleeve is a really good option for that. The Aliva Red Pro is a Aliva Red belt that you can wear around your waist, and it also has vibration, it has red light, and it has infrared light. So really good for back pain, really good for stubborn fat, because infrared light actually helps to eliminate fat. It helps to break fat free and helps to metabolize it and helps to shrink down your waistline. So that is the Aliva Red Pro. We'll be having an episode on the Aliva Red Pro here coming up soon, in which I actually show you all the features, but I don't want to go deep into that tonight so that we are not wasting time with that. And then last but not least is our LumiCure Light Therapy Torch. And again, we have this in the Pro, which is black, and the standard, which is silver. And this one we have red light, we have infrared light, which is not on there. And then we also have a flashing feature. So there's 3 different bulbs here. One is infrared, one is red light low level, red light high level, and you can use all 3 together. They work really well for any kind of inflammation. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome because your tendons are so swollen, just stick it right on there and it will penetrate really deep. If you have an open wound in which you're trying to heal, you can actually hold that out about an inch away from the skin, and it will help in filling in a wound. We've actually had a young lady who had a wound break open after surgery, mild infection, and we were able to expedite her recovery by using red light therapy, by regenerating those cells and working in defending bacteria, because blue light works really well for defending bacteria. And yep, there it is. Right there is our bacteria on our spectrum list. And so it worked really good for her in that we were able to combat bacteria. So when we are looking at the different wavelengths of photoscience technology, which again is all natural, it's been around for a very long time, that NASA has discovered. Red light therapy, it boosts collagen production and fine lines and wrinkles. So that's your red. When we're looking at the electrospectrum for that, we're looking at wavelengths. That's what the wavelengths are. So we have the spectrum of natural wavelength technology. They're just out there, okay? But if we can hack into and make 630 to 660 nanometers of red light specific wavelengths available that we can really absorb with our body, then it helps in reducing inflammation, especially superficial and fine lines and wrinkles. When it comes to blue light, okay, blue light is going to fall more on that 400 level spectrum, and that is really good for bacteria. So if you have cystic acne, if you have acne, teenager oil glands are really starting to come out, this is really good. Blue light therapy is really good for teenagers or those who have hormonal repetitive acne that just becomes more infective because of oily glands. You can use blue light to help combat that. And we have that in our LumiCure Light Therapy Torch, but we also have it in our face mask. When it comes to green, green is really good for calming and for inflammation, but also for headaches. So, and it works on lightening up dark spots, but it happens at 495 to 570 nanometers. And then yellow is what reduces redness. We have our face mask that lights up, and it lights up in an orange amber color. And again, that works for reducing redness, but also helping with boosting lymphatic flow. So clearing out the stuff through the lymphatic system, which is our human garbage disposal system. And then last but not least is our infrared, okay? And our infrared comes in the form of near and far. And again, when we're looking at that, infrared here is at the very end of the visible spectrum, but it really goes off so we don't even notice it, all right? Now, electromagnetic radiation fields. That is what the PMF Mat does, okay? And this is brand new. We just launched this last week. I have the baby one available here because the big one weighs a lot. So I just brought the baby in here. And if you have high levels of inflammation, you're going to want to zone into more of that 15 hertz, okay? And what makes this one really cool is it's a very small version, weighs about 15 pounds, and you can use it sitting in a chair as well as laying it flat. So if you have an office chair that you'd like to sit this in, you can actually sit in an office chair and use this. What's really cool, added bonus, is it does have the infrared heat technology. So when you are using your PMF Mat, I'm going to call it PMF for short, PMF, pulsed electromagnetic fields. When you are using your PMF Mat along with infrared, you're not only getting that 150 on up plus degrees of warmth in order to help heat the body from the inside out, but you're also using pulsed electromagnetic fields to create ever-flowing ionic exchange between the cells that are hyper-inflamed or over-inflamed with fresh exchange so that we can build up the battery. So if you think about how our battery recharges, as I showed you before, if you have your Tesla battery here, and we are trying to get to green, but we're all the way down here on this end of the spectrum, just laying on this mat for 30 to 60 minutes will boost you back up to where you're getting better to where you want to be. Just laying on it. It's like plugging your heart and your brain into a wall outlet where you are exchanging ionic energy in order to charge those cells. Mitochondria are feeding into how the power plant operates the motherboard, and things just start to feel better. And we can actually reverse our autoimmune, chronic disease, fat metabolism, chronic oxidative stress. We can actually reverse that with consistency while looking at our overall health habits, including what we're eating, when we're exercising, our emotional state, our mental, spiritual state, and staying physically active, because movement is medicine and motion is lotion. So our fascial connective tissue system is very electric rich. So we have a lot of energy and a lot of emotion stored in that system, and it governs everything else that goes into the body. Even though the mitochondria is the power plant, the ultimate is how the connective tissue restores, I like that word, restores how we actually move. So we can temporarily eliminate pain, but if we're not restoring our body and improving our overall cellular energy, the pain will come right back. In fact, it will magnify. So we here at Kinetic Solutions specialize in pain relief, non-medicinal instant pain relief, and LifePro gives us so many great resources and tools in which our clients in between appointments can actually maximize their sessions and improve their overall health by doing things at home until they're able to get back into it. Or sometimes they don't have to come back at all, they just feel great. So all these different technologies that I've taught about, red light therapy, infrared light therapy, whether near or far, pulsed electromagnetic fields, we've got whole body vibration. How does whole body vibration work? Well, because in our connective tissue system known as the fascia, we get these little adhesions, that form as our body attempts to repair itself. And within those adhesions, we get all these molecules that are toxic, that are trapped, that form this web. And when you get too many bugs in the web, the spider web is no longer pretty. So we have to pluck it and restring it. And when we restring it, it takes 28 different types of collagen to restring our web. And our body has this miraculous ability to do that all on its own if we would just get out of the way. So being on the vibration platform mobilizes blood flow, mobilizes oxygenated tissue and cells, enhances the regeneration of collagen. It helps in allowing our body to regenerate the stem cells and allowing those to go to where the voids are located in the body by breaking apart the toxic, defective structures that are no longer serving its purpose so that we feel less tension, and it releases all of our happy hormones at the same time. So just by standing on that for 10 minutes at a time, maybe once or twice a day, allows our body to relax and release so that we feel more calm, more collected, stress hormones drop, and with everything that we do, our dose of hormones releases. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And those are all the key to allowing the other hormones in our body to thrive on the level that they do. All right. Well, as you might know, Amazon Prime has been running a 2-day sale. And I know Amazon Prime is over with, but LifePro Prime is not. So if you have not purchased any one of these major products that I've talked about tonight, or maybe you have found products that you like that are not here that work really well for you, and you are wanting to add to your LifePro collection for optimal wellness and living, just remember you can go to the LifePro website direct. We provided you links to do that, in which you can buy our products on extra special deals as recognized on Amazon Prime, but Amazon Prime is over. LifePro is still running. That is, if you get through for this limited time only. If you should watch this episode and Amazon Prime and LifePro Prime are over with, and you're still wanting to get an extra special bargain, then feel free to click on those links and utilize the coupon code AMBER10, all caps, AMBER 10, and that will knock off a few extra dollars for you. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to answer your questions, to be of service to you. And for those of you who loved tonight's presentation on how inflammation happens, the different forms of inflammation, how it affects different systems of our body, what causes chronic inflammation, I will post those pictures for you to borrow and store and use however you choose to. I got mine off of Pinterest and off the web, so I do not own rights to those pictures, but I will post them for you so that you can have a look at them on your own. And just know that we are here to give you the best version of yourself possible and giving you the knowledge and the feedback that you're looking for so that you can make the right decisions to live your best life forward. Most importantly, though, it starts right here between your 2 ears. The difference between success and failure is only 18 inches from your heart to your head. And so remember, if you live your life leading with passion and purpose, that is from the heart. If you overthink things and you don't allow yourself the ability to be serving in gratitude and recognizing the good that's going on around you and the good within yourself, then you can't lead with your head. So make sure that you're getting a little fusion of the head and the heart and live your best day possible with what you got. Because at the end of the day, it is up to you as to whether you win your day or you leave the day as the dead bug on the windshield. As I like to say, you can either be the dead bug or you can be the windshield. It is up to you. It is not up to anybody else to decide that. So when you climb into bed tonight, just remember that you've done something great in the day, that you get to win the day, and that is on your that is up here within yourself. It doesn't take much to win your day, so don't get caught up being the dead bug. Until next time, we love that you're here sharing your time with us. We appreciate your support, and if there's anything that we can do to be of support to you, don't hesitate to reach out and leave us comments. If you're leaving comments on Facebook and you're wanting to capture my attention, make sure and tag me so that I can come in and answer those questions, because there's a lot that goes on in Facebook and there's a lot that goes on my world. And I am one of those that, in order to lead with my head and my heart without losing my mind, I like to have non-negotiable boundaries and don't get too caught up in the amount of time I spend on social media. So if you're trying to capture my attention, make sure and tag me, and I'll come in and find your comment and comment on whatever kind of expertise I can provide to you so that you can make whatever decisions you want. Thank you all for watching. Have a splendid evening and have a wonderful week.